The fluorescent lights of the corner gas station flickered as Brandon Wells pushed through the glass door, his work boots scuffing against the linoleum. His navy coveralls, stained with grease, clung to his frame after a 12-hour shift at Pete's auto shop. Atlanta's humid summer air followed him inside, mixing with the stale scent of coffee and motor oil. He was 32, but the bags under his eyes made him look a decade older. "Yo, Brandon, you look like you wrestled a carburetor and lost," teased Jamal, the cashier, leaning over the counter with a grin. Brandon managed a half-smile, rubbing his stubbled jaw. "Feelin' like it, man. Just need some smokes and maybe a miracle." Jamal chuckled, ringing up a pack of Marlboros. "Miracles extra. But, hey, Powerball's at $20 million tonight. You playin'?" Brandon snorted, fishing crumpled bills out of his pocket. "Lottery? That's a tax on dreamers, Jamal. Dreamers sometimes win, bruh." Jamal slid a ticket across the counter. "On the house. Pick some numbers, or I'll do it for you." Brandon hesitated, glancing at the clock. 9:47 p.m. Melanie and Aria would be waiting at home, probably eating leftover spaghetti. He sighed, scribbling 6 numbers on the ticket. 7, 14, 23, 28, 41, 56. Aria's birthday, Melanie's lucky numbers, and a random one for kicks. "Fine," he muttered, pocketing the ticket. "But when I lose, I'm blamin' you." Jamal laughed as Brandon shuffled out into the night, the ticket tucked in his wallet like an afterthought. At their cramped apartment in West End, Melanie Wells was tucking Aria into bed. The 9-year-old's room was a burst of color, crayon drawings taped to the walls, a stuffed giraffe named Sprinkles propped on the pillow. Melanie, her chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, sat on the edge of the bed, her diner apron still tied loosely around her waist. "Mommy, tell me about the cake shop again," Aria murmured, her brown eyes heavy but bright. Melanie smiled, brushing a curl from Aria's forehead. "One day, baby, we'll have a little bakery. Pink awning, glass cases full of cupcakes. You'll decorate 'em with sprinkles. And glitter." Aria giggled. "Edible glitter," Melanie corrected, laughing. "We'll call it Aria's Treats." The front door creaked open, and Brandon's heavy footsteps echoed. Melanie kissed Aria's forehead. "Sleep tight, love." In the living room, Brandon slumped onto the sagging couch, cracking open a beer. The TV blared the nightly news, but he barely listened until the lottery drawing started. Melanie emerged, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Long day?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Same old," he grunted, eyes on the screen. The announcer's voice cut through, and tonight's Powerball numbers are 7, 14, 23, 28, 41, 56. Brandon froze. His beer slipped, splashing onto the carpet. "No way." Melanie frowned. "What?" He fumbled for his wallet, hands shaking as he pulled out the ticket. His eyes darted between the crumpled paper and the TV. Mel, check this." She leaned over, her breath catching. "Brandon, you didn't." "We won," he whispered, then shouted, "We won." He leapt up, grabbing Melanie and spinning her around. Her laughter mixed with his whoops, waking Aria, who stumbled out in her pajamas. "Daddy, what's wrong?" she asked, clutching Sprinkles. Brandon scooped her up. "Nothing's wrong, kiddo. We're rich. $20 million rich." Aria's eyes widened. "Can we get a pony?" Melanie laughed, tears streaming. "Maybe a whole farm." The apartment filled with their voices, plans for a new house, a bakery, college for Aria. But as the celebration died down, Brandon stood by the window, staring at the city lights. Melanie watched him, a flicker of unease in her chest. His eyes held something new, not joy, but a restless hunger. 2 weeks later, the Wells family was still navigating the surreal. The lottery office had verified their win, and a financial advisor was helping them claim the lump sum, $12 million after taxes. They hadn't moved yet, but the apartment felt different, like it was holding its breath. Brandon was changing faster than the bank account. He'd quit Pete's auto shop with a dramatic middle finger to his boss, trading his coveralls for crisp polo shirts and aviator sunglasses. He spent hours on his phone, talking to consultants about opportunities. Melanie noticed he was slipping out most evenings, claiming meetings. At the kitchen table one morning, Melanie stirred sugar into her coffee, watching Brandon scroll through his phone. Aria was at school, and the apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. "You're heading out again tonight?" Melanie asked, keeping her tone light. Brandon didn't look up. "Yeah, dinner with some investors. Real estate guy says Atlanta's hot right now." She nodded, though her stomach tightened. "Maybe I could come? Hear what they're saying." He smirked, still scrolling. "Nah, it's boring stuff. You'd hate it." Melanie set her mug down. "Brandon, you've been gone every night this week. Aria's asking why you don't read to her anymore." His jaw twitched. "I'm building something for us, Mel. This money's a chance to be somebody. You want me slaving at the shop forever?" "No," she said softly. We're a team, right?" He finally looked at her, but his eyes were distant. "Course we are. Relax, okay?" That night, Melanie waited up, but Brandon didn't come home. She texted him at 1 a.m. "Everything okay?" No reply. By 3 a.m., she was pacing, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Car accidents, muggers. At dawn, she called Travis, her older brother, who lived across town. "Mel, you sure he's not at a bar or something?" Travis's voice was gruff with sleep. "He said it was business," she said, twisting the hem of her shirt. "But he's different, Trav. Like he's chasing something I can't see." Travis sighed. "Money changes people. Keep an eye on him. You need me, I'm there." When Aria woke up, she climbed into Melanie's lap. "Where's Daddy?" Melanie forced a smile. "He had to work late, baby. He'll be back soon." But the words felt hollow, and the unease in her chest grew heavier. Brandon strolled in at noon the next day, wearing a silk shirt and reeking of cologne. Melanie was scrubbing dishes, her eyes red from a sleepless night. Aria was at a friend's house, thank God, because the air in the apartment crackled with tension. "Where were you?" Melanie asked, her voice low but sharp. Brandon tossed his keys on the counter, shrugging. "Got caught up with some people. Lost track of time." "Lost track for a whole night?" She turned, hands on her hips. "I was worried sick, Brandon. You didn't answer my texts." He rolled his eyes, grabbing a soda from the fridge. "Jesus, Mel, I'm not a kid. I was handling business." "What business keeps you out till noon?" Her voice rose. "You're acting like we don't exist." He slammed the fridge door, his calm cracking. "Maybe because I'm trying to build a life bigger than this dump. You want me stuck here, fixing cars, while you play house." Melanie flinched, but her voice stayed steady. "I want my husband. Aria wants her dad." Brandon laughed, cold and bitter. "You and Aria will be fine. I'm setting up something big. Real estate, clubs, the works. I'm done being small-time." She stepped closer, searching his face. "What's that mean?" "You're leaving us." He met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm moving out. I need space to focus. I'll send you money, $1 million, maybe $2. You'll be set." Her breath caught, like he'd slapped her. "Money? You think I want your money? You're walking away from your family." He didn't answer, just grabbed a glass from the cabinet. The silence was louder than any words. "Say it," she demanded, tears burning. "Say you're choosing this, whatever it is, over us." Brandon set the glass down, his voice flat. "I'm doing what's best for me." Melanie's knees buckled, but she caught herself on the counter. "Get out." He didn't argue. He headed to the bedroom, and she sank to the floor, her world unraveling. Brandon emerged from the bedroom with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, his sunglasses perched on his head like a crown. Melanie stood in the living room, arms crossed, her face a mask of resolve. Aria was back, sitting on the couch with Sprinkles, her eyes wide and confused. "Daddy, where you going?" Aria asked, her voice small. Brandon crouched, forcing a smile. "Just a little trip, kiddo. I'll see you soon, okay?" Aria's lip trembled. "But you didn't read my story last night." His smile faltered. "I'll make it up to you, promise." Melanie stepped forward, her voice like steel. "Don't lie to her, Brandon. She deserves better." He straightened, his jaw tight. "I said I'll handle it, Mel." "Handle it?" she snapped. "You're walking out on your daughter. Look at her." Brandon glanced at Aria, then away, like it hurt too much. He adjusted his bag and headed for the door. Melanie followed, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "You'll regret this. Not today, maybe, but you will." He paused, hand on the knob, but didn't turn. "Take the money, Mel. Don't be stupid." The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Aria burst into sobs, and Melanie dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter close. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, though her own tears fell. "We're gonna be okay." An hour later, Travis burst through the door, his construction boots thudding. He took one look at Melanie's swollen eyes and Aria's crumpled form and cursed under his breath. "That coward," he growled, kneeling beside them. "Mel, what do you need?" She wiped her face, her voice shaky but firm. "Help me clean this place. I can't look at his stuff anymore." Travis nodded, rolling up his sleeves. "You got it. And Mel, you've got us. Always." They spent the evening boxing up Brandon's clothes, his tools, his half-empty cologne bottles. Aria helped, taping boxes with shaky hands. When they finished, the apartment felt emptier but lighter, like a weight had lifted. Melanie stood in the doorway, staring at the street where Brandon's car had disappeared. "We start over," she said, more to herself than anyone. "Just us." 3 months later, Melanie was balancing a new rhythm. She'd landed a waitressing job at Ruby's Diner, a bustling spot downtown with checkered floors and neon signs. The pay was barely enough for rent and groceries, but it kept the lights on. At night, she baked cupcakes, muffins, cookies, pouring her grief and hope into every batch. The kitchen smelled of vanilla and cinnamon, a small rebellion against the chaos. Aria was her anchor. The 9-year-old had taken to sketching signs for Melanie's treats, her crayons dancing across construction paper. One read, "Mom's muffins, sweet as love." Melanie taped it to the fridge, her heart swelling. One evening, Melanie was frosting cupcakes when Aria wandered in, her pigtails bouncing. "Mommy, can we sell these at school?" Melanie laughed, wiping flour from her cheek. "School's not a bakery, baby. But maybe somewhere else. Like a store." Aria's eyes lit up. Melanie paused, the idea sparking. Maybe a market. Farmer's market, downtown. The next day, she called Travis, who was sanding drywall at a job site. "Trav, you think I could pull off a market stall?" He didn't hesitate. "Hell yeah, Mel. Your stuff's better than half the bakeries in town. Need me to build you a table?" She smiled, her first real one in weeks. "You're the best." Meanwhile, Brandon was in Miami, living a life Melanie could only imagine. Social media showed him at rooftop parties, a model on his arm, his smile all teeth and no soul. Melanie avoided the posts, but Travis sent her a screenshot one night with a text, "He's a fool. You're the real winner." At Ruby's, Melanie started bringing her cookies to work, slipping them to her manager, Carla, a no-nonsense woman with a soft spot for sweets. One slow afternoon, Carla bit into a peanut butter cookie and groaned. "Girl, these are dangerous. You sellin' these yet?" Melanie blushed. "Tryin' to. Maybe at the market." Carla's eyes narrowed. "Bring a batch Saturday. Put 'em on the counter. Bet they're gone by lunch." That Saturday, Melanie set up a small display at Ruby's. Aria's handwritten signs taped to the tray. By noon, every cookie was sold. Customers asked for more, one woman saying, "These taste like my grandma's kitchen." Melanie's chest tightened, not with sadness, but with possibility. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, budgeting for a market stall. The numbers were tight, but she circled a date in red, the next farmer's market. Aria climbed into her lap, yawning. "We're gonna do this, right, Mommy?" Melanie kissed her forehead. "Yeah, baby. We're just getting started." The morning sun filtered through the cracked blinds of the Wells West End apartment, casting stripes across the kitchen table. Melanie Wells, her chestnut hair tied back with a flour-dusted scrunchie, packed Aria's lunch, a turkey sandwich, apple slices, and a chocolate chip cookie still warm from the oven. The scent of vanilla lingered, a quiet rebellion against the weight of the past 3 months. Since Brandon's departure, Melanie had thrown herself into waitressing at Ruby's diner by day and baking by night, her hands kneading dough as if shaping a new life. Aria, 9 and boundless, bounced into the kitchen in a purple backpack, her pigtails swinging. "Mommy, can I bring a cookie for Ms. Carter? She said my drawing was museum-worthy yesterday." Melanie smiled, tucking a second cookie into a baggie. "Only if you tell her it's from Aria's Treats." Aria grinned, scribbling a tiny note on a post-it, "Made with love by Mommy." She slipped it into her lunchbox, then paused, her brown eyes serious. "Mommy, do you think Daddy eats cookies in Florida?" Melanie's heart twinged, but she kept her voice steady. "I bet he's got plenty of snacks, baby. Let's focus on making our cookies the best in Atlanta, okay?" Aria nodded, hugging her. "The best in the world." As Aria skipped out to catch the school bus, Melanie headed to Ruby's, her apron slung over her shoulder. The diner was already buzzing, its neon sign flickering above checkered floors. Carla, the manager, waved her over, holding a peanut butter cookie from yesterday's batch. "Mel, these sold out again," Carla said, her voice sharp but warm. "Folks are asking if you do cakes. You got a side hustle brewin' here." Melanie blushed, wiping down a counter. "I'm thinking about the farmer's market. Maybe a stall." Carla's eyes lit up. "That's the spirit. You need a loan for the permit, you tell me. I ain't rich, but I got your back." That afternoon, Melanie was wiping tables when her phone buzzed. It was Travis, her older brother, calling from a construction site. "Yo, Mel, I finished that market table. Simple, sturdy, with a spot for Aria's signs. When's the big day?" 2 weeks, Melanie said, her stomach fluttering. "Trav, you sure I'm not crazy for this?" "Crazy?" Travis laughed. "You're baking circles around every shop in town. Aria's gonna be bragging about her mogul mom soon." Melanie hung up, her resolve hardening. That evening, she found Aria's lunchbox on the counter, a new note tucked inside, "You're my hero. Love, Aria." Tears pricked Melanie's eyes. She taped the note above the stove, a reminder that this was for them both. The Atlanta farmers market buzzed with life, a kaleidoscope of tents, fresh produce, and street musicians. Melanie's stall, a wooden table draped with a checkered cloth, stood at the edge of the lot. Aria's hand-painted sign read Aria's Treats in bubble letters, with smaller tags proclaiming Mom's Muffins, Sweet as Love, and Cookies That Hug You Back. Melanie had spent her last $50 on the permit, and her stomach churned with nerves. The tray held blueberry muffins, chocolate chip cookies, and a dozen cupcakes frosted in pastel swirls. Aria, in a polka-dot apron, handed out samples, her smile brighter than the morning sun. "Try my mom's cookies," she called to a passing couple. "They're so good, you'll want to hug her." The couple laughed, taking a sample. The woman's eyes widened. "Oh, honey, this is divine. How much for a dozen?" Melanie, arranging muffins, stammered, $15. The woman bought 2 dozen, and Melanie's hands shook as she bagged them. But the morning dragged. By noon, they'd sold only a handful of items, and the crowd seemed to favor the kettle corn stand across the way. Aria tugged Melanie's sleeve. Maybe we need music, Mommy. Like the guitar guy. Melanie chuckled, but her confidence waned. Then an elderly woman, her silver hair pinned in a bun, approached. She introduced herself as Mrs. Rosa, a retired baker. "These muffins remind me of my mama's kitchen," she said, her voice soft. "You've got something special, dear. Don't you quit." Mrs. Rosa bought 6 muffins and a cupcake, slipping an extra $10 into the tip jar. "For the little one's college fund," she winked at Aria. Aria beamed. "I'm gonna be a baker like Mommy." As Mrs. Rosa walked away, a small crowd gathered, drawn by Aria's chatter and the scent of fresh baking. A young mom bought cookies for her kids. A jogger grabbed a muffin. By closing, Melanie had sold half her stock and pocketed $120. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a start. Driving home in their rattling hatchback, Aria bounced in the back seat. "We're famous now, right?" Melanie laughed, glancing at her daughter in the rearview mirror. "Not yet, baby. But we're getting there." In Miami's South Beach, Brandon Wells leaned against a velvet rope outside a neon-lit club, a glass of bourbon in hand. His silk shirt, unbuttoned to his chest, glistened with sweat. At 32, he looked like a man chasing 25, his aviators perched on his head even at midnight. The $12 million lottery win had bought him a condo, a leased Ferrari, and a rotating cast of friends who called him B and drank his liquor. Tonight, he was arm in arm with Keisha Vance, a model with a razor-sharp smile and a knack for spotting opportunity. They'd met at a yacht party, and she'd been glued to him since. As they cut the line into the club, a photographer snapped their picture, the flash catching Brandon's grin. Inside, the bass thumped, and Keisha pulled him to a VIP booth. "B, you gotta meet Rico," she purred, nodding at a slick-haired man in a white suit. "He's got a deal that'll double your money." Rico slid into the booth, his gold watch glinting. "Brandon, my man, you're the talk of Miami. I'm talking real estate, condos in Brickell. You in for $500,000, I'll make you a partner." Brandon sipped his drink, his ego flaring. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Rico said, his smile too smooth. "Just need the cash up front. Market's hot, but you gotta move fast." Keisha squeezed Brandon's arm. "Come on, B, this is how you stay big." He hesitated, the memory of Melanie's cautious voice flickering in his mind. But the club's pulse drowned it out. "All right, Rico. I'm in." They clinked glasses, and Keisha's laugh rang out. Later, as Brandon stumbled to his condo, he checked his phone. A tabloid headline popped up, "Lottery winner Brandon Wells living large with model girlfriend." He smirked, but his bank app showed a balance lower than he'd expected. $8 million and dropping fast. Investments, parties, Keisha's gifts. It was fine, he told himself. He was untouchable. The next morning, hungover on his balcony, he scrolled through Facebook. A friend had shared a post about Aria's treats at the Atlanta farmers market. He froze, staring at a photo of Aria waving beside a tray of cupcakes. Melanie's smile was in the background, tired but fierce. For a moment, his chest tightened. Then he swiped it away, reaching for another drink. Melanie's alarm blared at 5 a.m., pulling her from a dream of pink awnings and glass pastry cases. She dragged herself to the kitchen, mixing batter for the weekend's farmers market. Aria's Treats was gaining traction. Last Saturday, they'd sold out by 2 p.m., but the grind was relentless. Her hands ached, and the diner shifts left her feet screaming. Still, every sale felt like a brick in a new foundation. At Ruby's, she was pouring coffee when Carla burst in, waving her phone. "Mel, you're not gonna believe this. Channel 5 wants you on their morning show. They saw your stall at the market." Melanie nearly dropped the coffee pot. "What? Me? On TV?" "You and Aria," Carla said, grinning. "They loved her signs. Said she's a local treasure. You in?" Melanie's mind raced. Exposure like that could change everything. "Yeah," she said, her voice shaky. "We're in." The shoot was scheduled for Friday at the market. Melanie spent the week baking, sewing a new apron, and coaching Aria to smile for the camera. When the day arrived, the Channel 5 van pulled up, and a reporter named Lisa, all teeth and enthusiasm, shook Melanie's hand. "You're the talk of West End," Lisa said, adjusting her mic. "Single mom, baking her way to the top? That's a story." Melanie blushed. "Just trying to make my daughter proud." Aria, in a glittery headband, tugged Lisa's sleeve. "Wanna try a cupcake? It's got magic frosting." Lisa laughed, and the camera rolled. The segment was a blur, Melanie explaining her recipes, Aria handing out samples, the crowd cheering. Lisa bit into a cupcake and groaned. "Folks, I'm moving into this stall. These are unreal." That night, the segment aired. Melanie and Aria watched on their ancient TV, curled up with popcorn. When Aria's face filled the screen, she squealed, "Mommy, we're famous." Melanie hugged her, but her phone was already buzzing. Orders poured in, cakes for birthdays, cookies for offices. Travis called, whooping, "Mel, you broke the internet. I'm building you a website tonight." By Monday, Aria's Treats was trending on Atlanta's X pages. Melanie stared at the order list, her hands trembling. This wasn't just a stall anymore. It was a dream taking shape. Melanie was elbow-deep in dough when her phone rang, an unknown number flashing. She wiped her hands, expecting another order. Instead, a crisp voice said, "Melanie Wells? This is Olivia Martin. I saw you on Channel 5. I think you're sitting on a $1 million idea." Melanie froze, flour dusting her jeans. Olivia Martin was a legend, Atlanta's food mogul, with a chain of artisanal cafes and a Food Network cameo. Thank you," Melanie stammered. "You mean Aria's Treats?" "Exactly," Olivia said. "Your story, your recipes, that kid of yours, it's a brand waiting to happen. Can we meet?" Melanie's heart pounded. "Yeah, of course. When?" "Tomorrow, my office downtown. Bring some cupcakes. And Aria, if she's free." The next day, Melanie and Aria stepped into Olivia's sleek office, a glass-walled space overlooking Peachtree Street. Melanie clutched a tray of cupcakes, her palms sweaty. Aria, in her best dress, carried a sketchbook of dessert ideas. Olivia, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes, greeted them with a warm smile. "Sit," she said, gesturing to plush chairs. "Let's taste these first." Aria handed Olivia a cupcake, chattering. "This one's called Unicorn Dream. It's got raspberry swirls." Olivia took a bite, her eyes closing. "My God," she murmured. "This is nostalgia in frosting." "Melanie, where'd you learn to bake like this?" "My mom," Melanie said softly. "And trial and error, I guess. After my husband left, baking kept me sane." Olivia nodded, her gaze softening. "I know about starting over. Your story's powerful. Single mom, kid with a spark, building something from nothing? People will eat that up, literally." Aria piped up. "Can we have a store with a pink awning?" Olivia laughed. "Kid, you're hired as my visionary." "Melanie, I want to invest. A brick-and-mortar bakery, maybe a franchise down the line." "You in?" Melanie's breath caught. "It's a lot. I'm just a waitress." "You're a chef," Olivia corrected. "And a damn good one. Think it over, but don't take too long. The world's waiting for Aria's Treats." Driving home, Aria sang made-up jingles about cupcakes. Melanie's mind spun. This was bigger than a market stall, bigger than she'd dared dream. But as she glanced at Aria, she knew they were ready. The Miami sun beat down on Brandon Wells as he stood outside his South Beach condo, his silk shirt clinging to his sweat-soaked back. The Ferrari he'd leased was gone, repossessed that morning after missed payments. At 32, he looked like a man who'd aged a decade in a year, his aviator sunglasses hiding bloodshot eyes. The $12 million lottery win was a fading dream, bled dry by parties, bad investments, and Keisha Vance, the model who'd vanished with $300,000 from his account 2 weeks ago. Brandon's phone buzzed with a voicemail from his lawyer, a gruff man named Carl. "Wells, it's bad. Rico's real estate deal was a scam. You're on the hook for $1.2 million in liabilities. And the IRS is sniffing around. Your taxes weren't filed right. Call me." Brandon deleted the message, his hands shaking. He'd sunk $500,000 into Rico's condo project, only to learn the properties didn't exist. Rico was gone, and Brandon's friends had ghosted him. The tabloids, once obsessed with lottery winner Brandon Wells, now ran headlines like, "From riches to rags." Where's he now? He slumped onto a bench, scrolling through X. A post caught his eye, a clip of Melanie and Aria on Atlanta's Channel 5, smiling at the farmer's market. Aria's voice chirped, "Try my mom's cupcakes." Brandon's chest tightened. He hadn't spoken to them in months, hadn't sent the money he'd promised. He swiped the app closed, muttering, "They're fine without me." That night, he met with Carl at a dive bar, the kind of place where the air smelled of stale beer and regret. Carl slid a folder across the table. "You owe $2 million total, Rico's mess plus taxes. Your condo's leveraged to hell. Sell it, or you're bankrupt." Brandon downed his whiskey, his voice hoarse. "I've got $800,000 left. Can't we settle?" Carl shook his head. "Not enough. The IRS doesn't negotiate with sob stories. You got family to lean on." Brandon laughed bitterly. "Family? I burned that bridge." "Then get a job," Carl said, standing. "Or you're looking at liens, maybe jail." Brandon stared into his empty glass, the weight of his choices crushing him. He'd been a king in Miami, but now the city felt like a cage. In Atlanta, the West End hummed with anticipation as Melanie Wells stood outside a storefront on Lee Street, its windows gleaming with fresh paint. The sign above read, "Aria's Treats," in swirling pink letters, Aria's hand-drawn cupcake logo beside it. Today was the grand opening of Melanie's first brick-and-mortar bakery, funded by Olivia Martin's investment and months of relentless hustle. The air smelled of sugar and possibility, and a crowd gathered, drawn by the Channel 5 buzz. Inside, Melanie adjusted her apron, her hands trembling with nerves. The bakery was small but warm, white walls, wooden tables, and glass cases filled with cupcakes, muffins, and cookies. Aria, in a glittery apron, bounced beside her, arranging sprinkles on a display cake. "Mommy, it's like our dream came true," she said, her eyes wide. Melanie hugged her. "It's just the start, baby." Olivia Martin strode in, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. "Melanie, this place is magic," she said, inspecting a tray of lavender cupcakes. "You've got a line out the door already." Melanie blushed. "I'm terrified, Olivia. What if we flop?" Olivia's eyes softened. "You won't. You've got heart, and that kid's a marketing genius. Let's open those doors." At 10 a.m., Travis, Melanie's brother, flipped the open sign, and the crowd poured in. Customers raved over the lemon bars, snapped photos of Aria's signs, and lined up for coffee. A local news van parked outside, and a reporter interviewed Melanie, who credited Aria's inspiration. "My daughter taught me to keep going," she said, her voice catching. Aria tugged the reporter's sleeve. "Wanna know the secret ingredient? It's love." The crowd laughed, and the clip aired that evening, going viral on Atlanta's X pages. By close, the bakery had sold out, and Melanie's order book was packed for weeks. Travis high-fived her as they cleaned up. "Told you, Mel. You're a boss." Melanie smiled, but her thoughts drifted to Brandon. Did he know? Did he care? She pushed the thought away, focusing on Aria, who was sketching a new sign, "World's Best Bakery." Brandon sat on a sagging couch in a friend's Miami apartment, the only place he could crash after selling his condo. The $400,000 from the sale had barely dented his debts, and his bank account showed $50,000, enough to survive, not thrive. The apartment smelled of weed and old pizza, a far cry from the penthouse he'd flaunted months ago. His phone, once buzzing with party invites, was silent. Bored, he opened Facebook, where a live stream from Atlanta popped up, Aria's Treats grand opening. The thumbnail showed Melanie cutting a ribbon, Aria clapping beside her. Brandon's finger hovered, then clicked. The video played, and Melanie's voice filled the room, steady and proud. This is for every mom who's had to start over. Aria's giggle followed. I want mommy to be the biggest baker in the world. Brandon's throat tightened. He saw Melanie's tired smile, the kind she'd worn when they were broke but together. He saw Aria's spark, the one he'd promised to protect. The comments flooded in, inspiring. Girl power. Where's the dad? Loser. He flinched, closing the app. Dude, you good? His friend Mike asked, tossing him a beer. Brandon caught it, his voice flat. Yeah. Just family stuff. Mike shrugged. Heard you're broke now. Shoulda stayed with that wife of yours. Brandon glared but said nothing. That night, he lay awake, the live stream replaying in his mind. Melanie had built something real, while he'd chased a mirage. For the first time, regret crept in, not for the money, but for the family he'd left behind. Brandon was back in Atlanta, a city he'd sworn to leave behind. Miami had chewed him up and spit him out, and with no prospects there, he'd taken a Greyhound north, his duffel bag holding all he owned. The $50,000 was down to $10,000, eaten by legal fees and survival. At 32, he was starting over, but the city felt colder now, its skyline mocking his fall. He applied for jobs, mechanic, delivery driver, anything, but his spotty resume and tabloid infamy worked against him. You're that lottery guy, one manager sneered. Pass. Former friends ignored his texts, and Travis, who'd seen him at a gas station, had only said, stay away from Mel. Desperate, Brandon took a job at a car wash on Peachtree, scrubbing SUVs for $9 an hour. The work was brutal, the sun baking his skin, but it was cash. He rented a room in a boarding house, its walls thin and its air stale. At night, he scrolled X, where Aria's Treats posts dominated Atlanta feeds. Melanie's Bakery had won Best New Business from a local paper, and Aria was quoted, "My mom's my hero." Brandon's hands clenched. He wasn't jealous. Not exactly. It was worse. He was irrelevant. One evening, he overheard coworkers talking about a job fair downtown. Heard that bakery's hiring, one said. Aria's Treats. Good pay, too. Brandon froze. Melanie's Bakery? He didn't know she'd opened a second location. The idea of working for her was absurd, but his wallet was empty, and pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. He jotted down the details, telling himself it was just a job, not a reckoning. The job fair was held in a community center, its gym packed with booths and hopefuls in ill-fitting suits. Brandon wore a borrowed button-up, his hair slicked back, his sunglasses tucked away. He clutched a resume that listed his mechanic work but skipped the lottery fiasco. The air smelled of coffee and desperation, and banners advertised, "Now hiring," for local businesses. At the far end, a booth caught his eye, Aria's Treats, downtown branch. The sign was unmistakable, with Aria's cupcake logo and Melanie's slogan, "Built with love." A young woman handed out flyers, but Melanie wasn't there, yet. Brandon's pulse raced. He could leave, avoid the humiliation. But his feet moved forward, drawn by a mix of need and curiosity. He filled out an application for dishwasher, the only role he was qualified for. As he handed it to the woman, a familiar voice called, "I've got the next interviews." Melanie stepped from a side room, her apron swapped for a blazer, her hair pulled into a neat bun. She looked like a boss, not the waitress he'd left behind. Their eyes locked, and the room seemed to shrink. Melanie's face hardened, but her voice stayed professional. "Brandon Wells," she said, glancing at his application. "Follow me." In a small office, she sat across from him, her gaze piercing. "What brings you here, Brandon?" He shifted, his throat dry. "I need a job. I'm good with my hands. I can clean, fix stuff." She leaned back, her fingers tapping the desk. "You know this is my bakery. My name, my daughter's name. Why here?" He looked down, his voice low. I'm broke, Mel. Miami, it didn't work out. I'm sorry for everything. The word sorry hung heavy, but Melanie's expression didn't soften. Sorry doesn't fix a year of silence. You left Aria crying, Brandon. You left me to pick up the pieces. He flinched, hands shaking. I know. I was stupid. I thought I could be bigger than us. She stood, her voice calm but cold. You're not the right fit. Not for this. Brandon nodded, his face burning. He wanted to argue, to beg, but her eyes told him it was over. He stood mumbling, "Good luck, Mel," and walked out, the weight of her words heavier than any debt. The community center's small office felt like a pressure cooker, its fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the linoleum floor. Melanie Wells sat behind a folding table, her blazer crisp but her eyes steely, as she faced Brandon Wells, the man who'd walked out on her and their daughter a year ago. His borrowed button-up was wrinkled, his face gaunt, a far cry from the cocky lottery winner who'd left with sunglasses and a smirk. The air crackled with unspoken history, and the job application for dishwasher lay between them like a confession. Melanie's voice was calm, but each word was deliberate. What brings you here, Brandon? Brandon shifted in the plastic chair, his hands fidgeting. I need a job, Mel. I'm broke. Miami chewed me up. I can work hard, clean, fix stuff, whatever you need. She leaned back, her fingers tapping the table. You know this is my bakery. Aria's name, our dream. You think you can just walk in here, after everything? He swallowed, his voice low. I'm not proud of what I did. I messed up, big time. I'm trying to make it right. Melanie's eyes narrowed, her composure a thin veil over her anger. Make it right? You left Aria crying on the floor, Brandon. You left me to explain why her daddy didn't love her enough to stay. And now you want to wash dishes for us. Brandon flinched, his hands gripping his knees. I was stupid, Mel. I thought the money would make me somebody. But I lost it all. Condo, car, everything. I'm sorry. I know it don't fix nothin', but I'm sayin' it. She stood, pacing to the window, her back to him. The job fair's hum filtered through the door. Laughter, chatter, hope. She thought of Aria, who was at the bakery with Travis, decorating cupcakes. You don't get it, she said, turning. This place is our fresh start. Every cupcake, every sign, it's us rebuilding. You don't get to be part of that. Brandon's shoulders sagged, but he met her gaze. I don't expect forgiveness. I need to eat, Mel. I got nowhere else. For a moment, her resolve wavered. She saw the boy she'd married at 20, the mechanic who'd fixed her car and won her heart. But that boy was gone, replaced by a man who'd chosen glitter over family. You're not the right fit, she said, her voice final. Not for this. He nodded, standing slowly, his face a mix of shame and defeat. I get it. Take care of Aria, okay? Tell her I'm trying. Melanie's jaw tightened. I've always taken care of her. He lingered, as if hoping for a crack in her armor, then shuffled out, the door clicking shut. Melanie sank into the chair, her hands trembling. She'd won, but the victory felt hollow, like a bruise that would ache for days. Brandon stepped into the community center's gym, the job fair's chaos swallowing him. Booths advertised baristas, drivers, clerks, but he felt like a ghost, invisible among the hopefuls. His resume, crumpled in his hand, was useless now. Melanie's words echoed, You're not the right fit. He'd known it was a long shot, but the rejection stung deeper than he'd expected, cutting through the numbness he'd built in Miami. At the area's treats booth, Sarah, the college kid handing out flyers, gave him a sympathetic glance. Better luck next time, man, she said, then turned to a new applicant. Brandon nodded, his throat tight, and headed for the exit. Outside, Atlanta's spring air was cool, but it did little to ease the heat in his chest. Travis leaned against a lamppost, his construction boots scuffed, his arms crossed. He'd been waiting, his eyes tracking Brandon like a hawk. "Well, well," Travis drawled, stepping forward. "Thought you'd slink back to Miami by now." Brandon stopped, his jaw clenching. "I ain't here to cause trouble, Trav." Travis smirked, but his eyes were hard. "Trouble's your middle name, ain't it? You threw away gold for glitter, man. Mel and Aria, they're diamonds. And you're out here begging for scraps." Brandon's hands balled into fists, but he didn't swing. "I know I messed up. You don't gotta rub it in." "I do," Travis said, stepping closer. "'Cause Aria's my niece, and Mel's my sister. You broke him, and I'm the one who helped pick up the pieces. You don't get to waltz back like nothing happened." Brandon looked away, his voice barely a whisper. "I just wanted a job." Travis shook his head. "You want redemption? Earn it somewhere else. Stay away from them." Brandon nodded, defeated, and started walking, his boots scuffing the sidewalk. Behind him, the community center's doors opened, and he heard a small voice, Aria's. "Uncle Trav, is Mommy done?" He froze, his heart lurching. Slowly he turned, catching a glimpse of Aria in a glittery apron, her pigtails bouncing as she ran to Travis. She hadn't seen him, but her presence hit like a punch. Travis knelt, whispering something, and led her inside. Brandon's eyes stung. He kept walking, the city blurring around him. In the distance, a delivery van passed, its side emblazoned with Aria's treats, built with love. He didn't look back. Inside, Aria slipped into the office, where Melanie was gathering her papers. "Mommy, was that Daddy?" she asked, her voice small. Melanie knelt, her heart twisting. "Yeah, baby. He was here, but he's gone now." Aria clutched her stuffed giraffe, Sprinkles. "Does he hate us?" "No," Melanie said, pulling her close. "He's just lost. But we've got each other, right?" Aria nodded, burying her face in Melanie's shoulder. "Forever." 2 weeks later, Melanie sat in the back office of Aria's Treats, the bakery's hum a comforting backdrop. The grand opening had been a triumph, with lines out the door and orders flooding in. Now, Olivia Martin had arranged a conference call with investors from New York and Chicago, pitching a national rollout. Melanie's laptop glowed, her notes scribbled with questions. Franchise costs? Supply chains? She was a waitress turned baker, not a CEO, and the stakes felt dizzying. Aria was at school, and Travis was manning the counter, giving Melanie space to focus. She adjusted her headset, her palms sweaty, as Olivia's voice came through. "Melanie, you ready? These folks are big players, but they love your story." Melanie took a deep breath. "Ready as I'll ever be." The call connected, and voices filled the line. Mark, a venture capitalist with a clipped tone, Susan, a food industry exec with a warm drawl, and Raj, a franchise expert. Olivia kicked things off. "Folks, Melanie Wells is the real deal. Single mom, built Aria's Treats from a farmer's market stall. Her bakery's breaking Atlanta records. Let's talk scaling." Mark jumped in. "Melanie, your numbers are impressive, 30% month-over-month growth. But national's a different beast. Can you handle the logistics?" Melanie's voice wavered, then steadied. "I'm learning fast. I've got a great team, and Olivia's guiding me. My focus is quality. Every cupcake's made with the same care as my first batch." Susan chuckled. "I tasted your lavender cupcake last week. Nearly cried. What's your vision?" Melanie glanced at Aria's drawing on the wall, a pink awning bakery. "I want Aria's Treats in every city, but not just stores. I want to train single moms, give them skills, a stake. Every shop should feel like family." The line went quiet, then Raj spoke. "That's powerful. Your story, rising from heartbreak, it's a brand people will rally behind. I'm in for $2 million to start." Mark hesitated. "I need a detailed plan, supply chains, staffing. Can you deliver?" Olivia cut in. "She will. I'm mentoring her, and we're hiring experts." Melanie's heart is the core, but we're building the bones. Melanie's chest swelled. I'll get you that plan, Mark. I didn't come this far to stop. By the end, Susan and Raj were committed, and Mark promised to review the numbers. Olivia signed off with a grin. You nailed it, Melanie. This is just the beginning. Melanie hung up, her hands shaking with adrenaline. She stepped into the bakery, where Travis was boxing cookies. Well? He asked. We're going national, she said, her voice breaking. Trav, we did it. He pulled her into a bear hug. That's my sis. Brandon's missin', the show of his life. Melanie smiled, but the mention of Brandon stung. She'd won today, but the job fair lingered, a reminder of what she'd lost, and what she'd gained. The Atlanta Youth Awards Gala was held at a downtown hotel, its ballroom glittering with chandeliers and round tables draped in white. Aria Wells, now 10, stood backstage in a navy dress, her pigtails swapped for a braid adorned with a sparkly clip. She clutched a note card, her speech for the Inspiring Storytelling Through Baking award memorized but nerve-wracking. Melanie sat in the audience, her heart swelling with pride, her own dress, a thrift store find, feeling like a crown. The MC, a local radio host named Jamal, took the stage. Next up, a kid who's stolen Atlanta's heart. Aria Wells, co-founder of Aria's Treats, is proof that big dreams start small. Let's hear it for her. The crowd roared, and Aria stepped into the spotlight, her smile nervous but bright. She glanced at Melanie, who gave a thumbs up, then began. Hi, everyone. I'm Aria, and I love cupcakes. But this isn't about cupcakes. It's about my mom. Melanie's breath caught as Aria continued. My mom was sad when my dad left, but she didn't give up. She baked, and I helped, and we made Aria's Treats. She taught me to forgive, even when it hurts, and to keep going. This award's for her, 'cause she's my hero. The audience erupted, some wiping tears. Melanie clapped, her eyes streaming. Aria's speech, raw and honest, was live-streamed on X, and comments flooded in, "This kid's a star. Melanie's a queen." The clip went viral, racking up millions of views by morning. Backstage, Aria ran to Melanie, who scooped her up. You were amazing, baby. Aria grinned. Did I make you cry? A little, Melanie laughed, kissing her forehead. Jamal approached, shaking Melanie's hand. Your daughter's a force. And you, single mom, building an empire? I'm pitching your story to my producer. You're made for TV. Melanie blushed. We're just getting started. That night, driving home, Aria chattered about her award, a small plaque she hugged like a treasure. Mommy, can we put this in the bakery? Right by the counter, Melanie said, her voice soft. So everyone knows who you are. At home, Melanie tucked Aria into bed, the plaque on the nightstand. I'm proud of you, she whispered. You're my hero, too. Aria yawned. We're a team, right? Always, Melanie said, her heart full. The world was watching now, and they were ready to shine. The Atlanta boarding house where Brandon Wells now lived was a far cry from his Miami penthouse. The room smelled of mildew, its walls paper-thin, and the single bulb flickered above a chipped desk. At 32, Brandon was a shadow of the lottery winner who'd strutted out of Melanie's life with $12 million. His $10,000 was nearly gone, eaten by rent and survival, and his car wash job barely covered groceries. Tonight, he sat on the sagging cot, a crumpled notebook in hand, penning a letter to Aria. The words came hard. Dear Aria, he wrote, then paused, his hand shaking. I'm sorry I left. I thought money would make me happy, but I was wrong. You and your mom are the best things I ever had. I'm trying to be better. I hope you're happy. Love, Dad. He stared at the page, the word Dad feeling like a lie. He hadn't earned it. Downstairs, the house manager, a gruff ex-cop named Eddie, banged on the door. Wells, you got mail. Bill, probably. Brandon shuffled down, grabbing a utility notice he couldn't pay. Eddie eyed him. You look like hell, man. What's eaten you? Brandon hesitated, then showed him the letter. Wrote this for my kid. Don't know if I should send it. Eddie skimmed it, his face softening. Kids what, 9, 10? She don't need fancy words. She needs truth. Send it, but don't expect a hug. Brandon nodded, sealing the envelope. The next morning, he mailed it to the bakery's address, his heart pounding. He didn't expect a reply, but the act felt like a step toward what he wasn't sure. At Aria's Treats, Melanie found the letter in a stack of mail. She recognized Brandon's scrawl and opened it, her jaw tightening. Aria was at school, and the bakery hummed with morning customers. Melanie read the letter, her emotions a tangle of anger and pity. She tucked it away, unsure what to do. That evening, she showed it to Travis, who was fixing a bakery shelf. He's got some nerve, Travis growled. Apologizing now, after all this? Melanie sighed, stirring a latte. He sounds broken, Trav. But I don't trust it. Don't, Travis said. Show Aria, but let her decide. She's stronger than he ever was. Later, Melanie sat with Aria on their couch, the letter in hand. Aria, now 10, read it quietly, her fingers tracing the words. He says he's sorry, she murmured. Do you think he means it? Melanie brushed a braid from Aria's face. Maybe, baby. But sorry's just a start. He's gotta show it. Aria nodded, her eyes distant. I hope he gets better. But I don't need him anymore. Melanie hugged her, tears pricking. That's more grace than he gave us. Aria set the letter on her nightstand, next to her youth award plaque. They never replied, but the letter lingered, a quiet acknowledgement of a wound that was healing without him. The studio lights of Good Morning America blazed down on Melanie and Aria Wells, who sat on a plush couch in New York City, a tray of cupcakes between them. The bakery's viral rise, fueled by Aria's award speech and Melanie's inspiring story, had landed them a coveted spot on national TV. Melanie, in a tailored blazer, hid her nerves behind a warm smile. Aria, in a sparkly dress, bounced with excitement, her braid adorned with a cupcake-shaped clip. The host, Sarah Jenkins, leaned forward, her voice bright. Melanie, Aria, welcome. Aria's Treats is a sensation, fastest-growing bakery in Atlanta, now expanding nationwide. Melanie, you started at a farmer's market. How'd you get here? Melanie glanced at Aria, her anchor. It was us against the world. My husband left after a lottery win, and I had to rebuild for Aria. Baking was my therapy, and she was my spark. Every cupcake's a piece of our heart. The audience cooed, and Sarah turned to Aria. You're 10, and you're a co-founder. What's your secret? Aria grinned, holding up a cupcake. Love. And glitter frosting. Wanna try one? Sarah laughed, taking a bite on air. Oh my gosh, this is heaven. Aria, you're a baking wizard. The segment shifted to a live demo, with Aria showing Sarah how to pipe frosting. Melanie chimed in, her voice steady. We're opening 5 new stores this year. Chicago, Miami, LA. We're training single moms, giving them a shot like I got. Backstage, Olivia Martin watched, her silver hair catching the light. You're naturals, she told them after the taping. Orders are crashing the website. You're a movement now. Melanie's phone buzzed with notifications. Retailers, investors, fans. A producer approached, offering a cookbook deal. America loves you, he said. Think about it. On the flight home, Aria sketched bakery designs, chattering. Mommy, can our Miami store have a palm tree sign? Melanie smiled, exhausted but elated. Whatever you want, baby. At home, they watched the segment air, curled up with popcorn. Travis called, whooping. Mel, you're a damn superstar. Brandon's probably choking on his regret. Melanie laughed, but the mention of Brandon sobered her. She'd seen his letter, felt his absence in Aria's eyes. He's not our story anymore, she said softly. Aria nodded, hugging her. We're the story, Mommy. Brandon's life had unraveled further. The car wash fired him for missing shifts. He'd been too ashamed to admit he was sick, unable to afford a doctor. His boarding house evicted him when he couldn't pay, and now, at 32, he was homeless, his belongings in a tattered backpack. He panhandled on a busy Atlanta corner, the same street Melanie used to ride the bus on, back when they were broke but together. The irony wasn't lost on him. He sat against a brick wall, a cardboard sign reading, "Anything helps." Passers-by tossed coins, some with pity, others with disdain. His stomach growled, his pride long gone. The city moved around him, suits heading to offices, kids laughing, life going on. He felt like a ghost. A delivery van sped by, its side emblazoned with Aria's treats, built with love. Brandon stared, his chest tightening. He'd seen the Good Morning America clip on a shelter TV, Aria's giggle filling the room, Melanie's strength undeniable. He'd mailed the letter weeks ago, but no reply came. He didn't blame them. An older woman, her coat patched, dropped $1 in his cup. "You look like you need a coffee," she said, her voice kind. Brandon managed a nod. "Thanks. Used to have it all, you know. Blew it." She sat beside him, unfazed by the street's grime. "Name's Clara. I've been here a while. You got family?" He hesitated, the truth heavy. Had a wife, a daughter. Left em for money. They're better off now. Clara's eyes softened. "Money's a lousy trade for love. You try reachin' out." "Wrote a letter," he said, staring at the pavement. "Don't think they care." "They might," Clara said. "But you gotta keep goin'. Ain't about them forgiving you, it's about you forgiving yourself." Brandon looked at her, her words sinking in. He didn't know if he could, but for the first time, he wanted to try. As Clara walked away, he tucked the $1 in his pocket, vowing to find a shelter job board tomorrow. Melanie stood in the doorway of their old West End apartment, the key heavy in her hand. She'd kept the lease for nostalgia, though they now lived in a cozy house near the bakery. The apartment was empty, its walls scuffed, the fridge's hum gone. It was here she'd cried after Brandon left, here she'd baked her first cupcakes, here Aria had drawn her first signs. Today, she was saying goodbye, the lease ending. Travis leaned against the counter, his construction boots scuffed. "Feels like a lifetime ago, huh?" Melanie nodded, running a hand along the sink. "This place broke me, Trav. But it built me too." He smirked. "Built a damn empire. You're on TV, Mel. National stores. You ever think you'd get here?" She laughed, her eyes misty. "Not in a million years. I just wanted to pay rent. But Aria, she made me dream bigger." Travis crossed his arms. "You needed to be broken to be rebuilt. This place? It's where you found your spine." Melanie walked to the window, the city lights twinkling. "I was so angry at Brandon. Part of me still is. But I'm grateful, too. If he hadn't left, I wouldn't be this." Travis raised an eyebrow. "You're not gonna forgive him, are you?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Maybe never. But I don't need to. I've got Aria, the bakery, you. That's enough." They locked up, the doors click a quiet farewell. In the car, Melanie glanced at Travis. "You ever think about him? Where he is?" Travis shrugged. "He's out there payin' his price. You focus on you." Melanie nodded, the past fading like a shadow. She drove home, Aria's award plaque on the dashboard, a reminder of the future they'd built on broken bricks. The first out-of-state Aria's treats opened in Chicago, its pink awning gleaming under a gray sky. Melanie stood inside, training a team of bakers, mostly single mothers, their aprons dusted with flour. The store was packed, locals drawn by the Good Morning America buzz and Aria's viral speech. Melanie's mission was clear: every cupcake sold helped a family rise. She coached a nervous baker named Latoya, a mom of 2. "Pipe the frosting like this," Melanie said, guiding her hand. It's not just a swirl, it's a smile. Latoya laughed, her tension easing. You make it sound like art. It is, Melanie said. You're telling a story. Your kids'll be proud. Latoya's eyes shone. Like Aria's proud of you? Melanie smiled. Exactly. Olivia Martin flew in for the opening, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd. You're a machine, Melanie. 3 more stores by fall. Miami, L.A., Boston. You ready? Melanie wiped her hands, her heart racing. I'm scared, but yeah. These women, they're why I'm doing this. Olivia nodded. Your brand's global now. Ex-posts are calling you the mom who baked a movement. Embrace it. That night, Melanie video called Aria, who was with Travis in Atlanta. Mommy, Chicago looks so cool. Aria squealed, holding up a sketch of a cupcake tower. Can I visit? Soon, baby, Melanie said. You're my inspiration, you know that? Aria grinned. We're a team. Back at the hotel, Melanie scrolled X, reading posts about the opening. A message from Jamal, the radio host, popped up. Mel, you're killing it. Got a docuseries pitch for you and Aria. Interested? She typed back, maybe. Let's talk. The world was watching, and she was ready to lead. The Atlanta Youth Conference filled a convention center with energy, teens and families packing the auditorium. Aria Wells, now 10, stood on stage, her navy dress swapped for a white one, her braids sparkling with glitter. Her speech, titled You Can Rise from Anything, was the keynote, a testament to her role in Aria's treats and her viral award speech. Melanie sat in the front row, her heart swelling, Olivia and Travis beside her. Aria's voice was clear, her note card barely needed. I used to think heroes wore capes, she began. But my hero's my mom. She was sad when my dad left, but she baked, and we built Aria's treats. I learned you can't change the past, but you can build a better future. The crowd leaned in, some tearing up. In the back, a man stood in the shadows, his coat worn, his face haggard. Brandon had slipped in, drawn by an ex-post about Aria's speech. He'd found a shelter job cleaning offices, a small step toward stability. Seeing Aria now, poised and powerful, broke something in him, not pride, but awe. Aria continued, Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting go so you can grow. My mom taught me that, and I'm teaching it to you. The audience erupted, a standing ovation shaking the room. Brandon clapped, tears streaming, unnoticed in the crowd. He saw Melanie stand, her smile radiant, and knew she'd won, not just fame, but peace. Backstage, Aria ran to Melanie, who hugged her tight. You changed lives today, baby. Aria grinned. Like you do every day. Travis high-fived her. Kid, you're a rock star. As the crowd dispersed, Brandon lingered, his letters' words echoing. He didn't approach, he didn't need to. Seeing Aria shine was enough. He slipped out, the stage's backdrop burned into his mind. Nothing sweet comes easy. Melanie and Aria drove home, the city lights a backdrop to their triumph. Mommy, did we do good? Aria asked. Melanie squeezed her hand. We did great, baby. The best is yet to come. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story.